During the January 2025 wildfires in the Los Angeles area, water infrastructure came under intense scrutiny, and online claims about agricultural water ownership quickly went viral. A name started appearing alongside photos of burned streets: the Resnicks. Stuart and Linda Resnick are worth an estimated $8 to $11 billion, depending on agricultural valuations and market conditions, according to Forbes estimates in recent years. They live in Beverly Hills. They own one of the largest privately held agricultural land holdings in the United States, with the Wonderful Company controlling well over 100,000 acres of farmland in California's Central Valley. They hold a 57% stake in the Kern Water Bank, one of the largest underground water storage facilities in the country, capable of holding 500 billion gallons. Their company, the Wonderful Company, uses tens of billions of gallons of water per year, primarily for permanent crops like almonds and pistachios. And almost none of their products have anything to do with drinking water the way most people think about it. They sell pistachios, pomegranate juice, mandarins, flowers, and a small square bottle of water from a Pacific island 5,500 miles away. This is how they got there. Stuart Allen Resnick was born December 24, 1936, on a farm in Highland Park, New Jersey, though the family never actually farmed it. "We didn't farm it because it was during the recession," he later explained. His father owned a bar. His grandfather had emigrated from Ukraine when his father was 3. Growing up, the family wasn't poor, but money was tight and unpredictable enough that it shaped how Stuart thought. At 13, he was developing photos at the local pharmacy. By high school, he had a small business selling toys at farmers markets in Central Jersey, and used that money to help pay his college expenses. He enrolled at UCLA, earned a Bachelor of Science degree in 1959, and went on to UCLA School of Law. While he was still in law school, he knocked on doors around Los Angeles until he had enough clients to start a janitorial services company. His father, he recalled, always had trouble keeping janitors at the bar. "Sometimes they wouldn't show up, and I thought, well, I'm reliable." He started with 5 employees and had 100 by the time he graduated. He sold the company in 1969 for $2.5 million. Linda Ray Harris was born in Baltimore in 1943 and grew up in Philadelphia in a Jewish household. Her father, Jack H. Harris, was a film distributor who produced a 1958 science fiction film called The Blob, which became a cult classic. Because of her father's work, Linda had a recurring role on a children's television program called the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour when she was just 4 years old. After high school, she briefly attended community college, then took a job at the in-house advertising agency for Sunset House, a mail-order catalog company. At 19, she left to start her own agency, which she named Linda Limited. In the early 1970s, she was pitching her agency's services to a company called American Protection Industries, a burglar alarm and security business. The president of that company was Stuart Resnick. They struck a deal, then a relationship, and married in 1972. Linda has described the two of them as complementary forces. He focused on operations and acquisitions. She brought marketing and branding. "Stuart and I together make one perfect person," she told the Los Angeles Times in 1993. In 1978, Stuart bought his first piece of California farmland as a hedge against inflation and rising interest rates. In 1979, he and Linda purchased Teleflora, a flower delivery wire service, for proceeds from his earlier sale. Linda took over as the company's head of marketing and eventually its president. She introduced a concept in 1982 called Flowers in a Gift, which placed delivered flowers inside a collectible keepsake container. It won a Gold Effie Award and transformed Teleflora's business model. The same year they incorporated their holding company, which they originally called Roll Global, later renamed the Wonderful Company. In 1981, they had bought the Paramount Citrus Association, which included 1,000 acres of citrus groves. Then, in 1984, they purchased the Franklin Mint, a maker of collectibles, coins, and figurines, for $167.5 million from Warner Communications. Linda directed its international marketing for years, arranging licensing deals with the Louvre Museum, the Vatican, Monopoly, Scrabble, Elvis Presley, and John Wayne. They sold it in 2006. By the mid-1980s, they had already turned their attention toward the crop that would make them famous: pistachios. Stuart Resnick bought pistachio orchards in the San Joaquin Valley and applied the same vertically integrated model he had used everywhere else. He controlled the nurseries, the harvesting, the processing, the packaging, the marketing, and the distribution in-house. Linda was a genius with our branding, and I had a pretty good idea about sales and how to scale for my other businesses, he said. I thought if we could apply that here, we could be a leader in this business and eventually dominate it. The company expanded into almonds, pomegranates, citrus, and wine. By 2007, the Resnicks owned farmland covering an area 4 times the size of San Francisco. The wonderful company is widely regarded as the largest vertically integrated pistachio producer and marketer in the United States, with industry estimates placing the company's share of U.S. pistachio production at roughly 1/5 in peak years. But to grow that much on that land, they needed water. A lot of it. California's water has always been inconsistent. The state cycles between long droughts and wet surpluses, with nothing in between. Starting in the 1970s, California built a vast system of canals, aqueducts, and water banks to manage those swings. The State Water Project moved water from the Sierra Nevada mountains south toward farms and cities. In 1988, the California Department of Water Resources acquired approximately 20,000 acres of land in Kern County, in the southern San Joaquin Valley, to develop an underground water bank on a geological formation known as the Kern Fan Element. The idea was to store surplus water underground during wet years and pull it out during dry ones, with the benefits going to the state's residents and farmers alike. That facility became the Kern Water Bank. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. In 1991, during a severe drought, agricultural contractors in Kern County received a 0% water allocation from the State Water Project, while still being required to pay their fixed costs. Paramount Farming Company, the Resnick's agricultural subsidiary, had no groundwater under its land and had to buy expensive emergency supplies. That experience made clear how badly the company needed direct access to a stable water source. In 1994, state water officials, agricultural landowners, and infrastructure contractors gathered for closed-door negotiations at a resort in Monterey, California. The meetings produced what became known as the Monterey Amendments to the State Water Project contracts. Critics describe the agreement as being written without any input from voters, taxpayers, or legislators. Among its most controversial provisions, the amendments repealed the urban preference provision, which had historically prioritized municipal users during shortages, a change critics say weakened protections for cities during drought. After the amendments, cities facing drought conditions would have to purchase water from private contractors rather than receiving it through the state system. The amendments also transferred operational control of the Kern Water Bank away from the state. Paramount Farming Company formed a new entity called Westside Mutual Water Company and joined a consortium of water districts that took over the facility. Through Westside Mutual, the Resnicks ended up with a 57% controlling stake in the Kern Water Bank. Critics, including the California Water Impact Network, argue that the restructuring allowed private agricultural interests to profit from water infrastructure originally developed with public funds. In the 3 years after the Monterey deal was signed, the Resnicks nearly doubled their farmed acreage. They now had secure access to enough water to grow thirsty crops like almonds and pistachios during conditions that would have bankrupted their neighbors. A single almond requires about 1.1 gallons of water to grow. During the severe California drought between 2011 and 2017, Stuart Resnick's Paramount Farms drilled 21 new wells in 2015 alone. California's urban water systems that year received just 5% of what they requested from the state. During severe drought years, agricultural water use in California far exceeds urban consumption statewide, a dynamic that has placed large farming operations under intense scrutiny. Their influence on California's water policy did not stop with what they owned. The Resnicks donated a combined $271,990 to Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's campaigns, $29,000 directly to Senator Dianne Feinstein, and over $250,000 to Governor Gavin Newsom since 2018. In September 2009, Stuart Resnick wrote a personal letter to Feinstein, arguing that federal biological protections for salmon and delta smelt were hurting agricultural water access. Feinstein forwarded the letter directly to the Obama administration, which agreed to spend $750,000 on a new federal scientific review of the protections. The review concluded the same thing the original science had. While all of this was unfolding in California, the couple had also acquired a brand that would make them famous in a completely different part of the world. In 1996, Canadian businessman David Gilmour was exploring investment opportunities in Fiji. He discovered a geological survey describing a massive artesian aquifer sitting under the Yakara Valley on the island of Viti Levu. The water in the aquifer had been filtering through volcanic rock for approximately 450 years, according to carbon dating, accumulating silica and minerals along the way before pooling far underground, sealed below an impermeable layer of clay. Gilmour saw the commercial potential immediately. He secured a 99-year lease from the Fijian government, invested $48 million to build a bottling plant directly on top of the aquifer, and in 1996 launched a company under the brand name Fiji Water. By 2004, the brand had reached sales of roughly $25 million a year and was being sold in 8 countries. In December of that year, Gilmour sold the company to Roll International, the Resnicks holding company, for approximately $50 million. Linda took charge of the marketing. Under her direction, Fiji Water sales grew 300% in 4 years, making it the #1 imported bottled water brand in the United States by 2008. The brand became a fixture at the Golden Globes, at New York Fashion Week, in hotel minibars, and at celebrity events. Its square bottle, its blue cap, and its images of tropical vegetation and remote mountains turned ordinary bottled water into something aspirational. The numbers behind the brand are striking. Fiji Water has been described in economic reporting as accounting for several percentage points of Fiji's GDP, and it ranks among the country's leading exports by dollar value. A 12-liter carton of the water is sold by the Fijian subsidiary to the U.S. parent company for about $4. That same water is sold by the parent to distributors for $13. It retails in American stores for anywhere between $20 and $28. The Fijian subsidiary books low profits by selling cheaply to its American parent, which then captures the margin, structurally limiting how much corporate tax revenue stays in Fiji. According to statements from Fijian officials in 2010, the company had paid roughly $500,000 in corporate taxes over several years, while benefiting from tax incentives. In November 2010, the Fijian military government announced it would raise the water extraction tax from 1/3 of a cent per liter to 15 cents per liter for any company extracting more than 3.5 million liters per month. Fiji Water was the only company meeting that threshold. The company's president, John Cochran, announced on November 29th that Fiji Water was shutting down its plant, canceling supplier orders, and giving its 400 Fijian employees 2 weeks' pay before asking them to leave the premises. Cochran depending on agricultural valuations and market conditions. The Wonderful Company generates annual revenues of over $6 billion across its brands. The couple live in Beverly Hills. They have given $750 million to Caltech for climate research and $70 million to the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Linde has described their philanthropy as central to the company's identity and has pledged to give the majority of their wealth away. The New York Times has described Linde as the driving force behind the couple's charitable efforts. In Lost Hills, a small Central Valley town where 1 of every 2 households includes a wonderful employee, the company has funded unpaved road repairs, preschools, parks, health clinics, and charter schools. In Fiji, the company's foundation has funded rural water projects, classrooms, teacher housing, bus shelters, and school infrastructure. By 2018, official figures reported that the percentage of Fijians without access to clean drinking water had fallen significantly. Separately, the company's foundation has funded rural water projects and school infrastructure across the islands. The Resnicks rarely give interviews. When a journalist asked Linde in a 2015 video how she thinks about water for the business, she said, "We're thinking about water 24/7. Okay? I don't want to get into a drought discussion right now because it's really off topic." A bar owner's son who cleaned floors to pay for law school. A child actress who bootstrapped an ad agency at 19. Between them, they built one of the most influential private agricultural water holdings in modern American history, 1 pistachio orchard and 1 aquifer at a time.